whose name was carved in stone. Carved in stone.
Do you know what this is? I know you think you do. Keep watching, and in 8 minutes you'll know exactly what it is and why it matters. It was October 2002, and an ancient limestone box surfaced in the hands of a private collector in Israel. At first glance, it looks like hundreds of other first-century ossuaries, small, rectangular, carved to hold the bones of the dead. But this one was different. It had an inscription in Aramaic that read, Yaakov bar Yosef, akuhi di Yeshua. Translation, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. Wait, brother of Jesus? Could this be the ossuary of James the Just, the brother of Jesus Christ? In the first century, ossuaries were common among Jews in and around Jerusalem, but inscriptions were typically short, just the name of the deceased, sometimes a father's name. Including a brother's name was extremely rare, and only done when the brother was exceptionally well known. So why mention Jesus? Because this Jesus was already famous when James died, and because this James was no ordinary man. Let's go to the Bible. Galatians 1:19. Paul writes, I saw none of the other apostles, only James, the Lord's brother. And again in Matthew 13:55, the people of Nazareth ask, Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary? And aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? According to Acts 15, James presided over the Jerusalem Council, helping determine how Gentile believers would live out their new faith. He was respected by Jews and Christians alike, until his martyrdom in 62 AD, described by the historian Josephus.
In Antiquities of the Jews, Book 20, Chapter 9, Josephus records that the high priest Ananus took advantage of a temporary gap in Roman rule to execute James. He says James, the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, was stoned to death along with others for breaking the law. He assembled the Sanhedrin of judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, whose name was James, and delivered them to be stoned. Hegesippus, 2nd century Christian historian, quoted by Eusebius, offers a more detailed, dramatic account. The scribes and Pharisees asked James to speak to the people from the pinnacle of the temple, hoping he would dissuade them from believing in Jesus. Instead, James boldly proclaimed that Jesus is the Son of Man and will return in glory. Furious, they threw him off the temple wall, then stoned him, and finally a fuller, laundry worker, struck him on the head with a club to finish him off. So they went up and threw down the just man, saying, Let us stone James the just. And they began to stone him, for he was not killed by the fall. But he knelt down and said, I entreat you, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Eusebius, Church History, Book 2, verse 23.
So, how do we know this ossuary might belong to James? Let's break it down. Yaakov, James, was a common name in the 1st century. Joseph, was also common. But brother of Yeshua, Jesus, is incredibly rare, and only makes sense if the brother was famous enough to identify the deceased. All three names appear together in the New Testament, and now, potentially, on a 1st century bone box. But this artifact sparked massive controversy.
Arizona officials in Detroit tonight yet another.
This is NPR. I'm Alice Green.
In 2003, the Israel Antiquities Authority accused the owner, Oded Golan, of forging part of the inscription, especially the Brother of Jesus section. A lengthy trial followed, lasting 7 years. Over 50 experts testified. Advanced testing was done on the stone, the patina, that's the surface coating, and the inscription itself. In the end, the judge ruled in 2012 that there was no conclusive evidence of forgery, and Golan was acquitted. Scientific tests confirmed the patina inside the letters matched the age and composition of the surrounding surface, suggesting the inscription was not added later on. In short, the ossuary and its full inscription is authentic. Today, the James Ossuary is back in private hands, rarely displayed, but still considered one of the most significant archaeological artifacts ever found related to the New Testament. If this is really the ossuary of James, the brother of Jesus, it would be the earliest archaeological reference to Jesus of Nazareth, predating any manuscript of the New Testament. Let that sink in. Some people think the Bible is just a book of religious fantasy, but real names in real places, carved in real stone, they tell a different story. The story of Jesus and his family and the early church. James grew up with Jesus. He doubted him at first, but after the resurrection, James believed. He led the early church, wrote the Epistle of James, and died for his faith in his brother and Lord. What about you? Do you believe? The Bible says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans 10:9. James believed. Do you? So, what is it? The James Ossuary, possibly the bone box of Jesus' own brother. But then, you already knew that.